It stretches 557 kilometres from Mundaring to Kalgoorlie. It was designed by a chief engineer, C.Y. O'Connor, and its past is a well-established part of Western Australia's history. But the present and future of the Perth to Kalgoorlie pipeline are not nearly so widely known. How many people, for instance, know there are 6 pumping stations along the way, and each employs an engineer, 2 electricians, and 5 pump station attendants? And how many people have heard of the remoter posts? One good reason why the pipeline workers attract little public attention is that since the water started moving in 1903, there has never been a stoppage or strike. Tonight's stoppage involves the 30 attendants who stand to lose their present jobs when the pumping stations become automatically controlled sometime next year.
My job as a pump attendant, I just take readings of the motor temperatures and head pressures and delivery pressures, and every 2 hours we deduct readings from the previous reading, and we get how much water was pumped and how much electricity was used. And then we enter it in a daily running sheet.
Is there much job satisfaction from doing that?
Oh, well, it is a good job, a permanent job. We look upon it as a permanent job, and a government job is quite a good, steady employment.
But it's not really very well paid, is it?
Well, in the winter time, it's the wage does drop. And well, the standard rates, I suppose, are not too high, but we do get extra money by working weekends and getting time and a half for public holidays and that. But all in all, it's not really a highly paid job.
The base pay, in fact, is $142 a week. And though that can increase to a take-home pay of about $150 a week with penalties and service pay, it's hardly an incentive to take a job in a remoter station. One very attractive aspect of the job, however, is another reason for the workers' concern. Pipeline workers are provided with houses at nominal rentals of sometimes only $1 or $2 a week. But from next month the rent will rise to about $10 or $12 a week, and then progressively next year they will go up to as much as $26. On top of all that, there are no promotional opportunities for pumping station attendants.
We're ordained pump attendants right from when you start your employment with the government, and if you're still with them 40 years later, you're still a pump attendant. But
I'm just wondering why you're all fighting to keep your jobs.
Well, we like our job, our employment. We would have stuck it. Some guys have been in it for 40 years. I've been in it 8 myself, and I find it a good, steady job. And it's the historical part about it that you think about is it adds up to a bit of interest.
It's ironical, really, that while the modern generation of workers are concerned about how progress will affect them, the now obsolete is becoming increasingly popular with tourists. The C.Y. O'Connor Museum is right next door to the present manned station at Mundaring. Since the pipeline was built, there have, of course, been significant major changes, but they haven't been frequent. The first boilers were in use at Mundaring for more than 50 years, and steam was still used at other stations until only a decade ago. The planned automation, according to officer in charge of the Mundaring pumping station, Mr. Gordon Lambert, is a major event in the pipeline's history.
It will mean that all pumping stations, mainline pumping stations, booster pumping stations, will be controlled from Cundon, from one base. Everything will be automatic. All the controls for the tanks, the levels of the tanks, will all be read out at Cundon. There'll be no need for any staff whatever at any pumping station.
Do you think that that's a sad end of an era? What was your time like in some of the more remote pumping stations?
I enjoyed the time. I enjoyed steam stations. There's more life in a steam station than there is in an electric station.
You've actually been working on the steam stations?
Yes, I started in steam stations in 1960. I worked right through until 1968 in steam, and I was at Yabulun pumping station in 1968 when steam was phased out and electric pumping station brought in.
How many people would have been employed then in the pumping stations?
In each pumping station? Usually 4 or 5 firemen, a greaser and an engineer.
And when the changeover occurred then, was there any industrial action?
No. All the firemen and the greasers were incorporated in the electric pumping stations as electric pump attendants.
According to the Minister for Works, Mr McKinnon, no one will lose their jobs because of the current plans. Of the 30 men now attending the pipeline, 3 are due to retire. 18 will be transferred to other duties, and the remaining 9 will operate the new automated system. The men, however, are determined to remain a part of the present and not yet become a part of the past.